Under Vedanta.
Where?
Right here.
Oh, right there. I knew you had gone somehow there.
Class.
Ah, good.
Yes.
Okay, everything is back. You didn't miss anything. Don't worry. Here we are. You didn't miss anything. I waited for all of you. Yeah. So, Ghorasu cha Mudhasu, Ghora Mudhasu. In the vritti is called Ghora and Mudha. Then what happens? You know, Malinyat, on account of them being extremely dirty. Why? Because the inner soap has not been utilized to clean them. The soap of japa, the soap of seva, the soap of meditation has been not utilized to clean them. That's why they continue to predominate in the form of dirt. And then what? Sukhamshaha cha tirohitaha. Tirohita means completely discredited, veiled, obfuscated. So what is obfuscated is the happiness is obfuscated. The happiness is totally obfuscated in the Ghora and the Mudha vrittis, just like in the turbid and the restless waters. The moon is either distorted or obfuscated. Likewise, in the Ghora and the Mudha vrittis, on account of them being extremely dirty, what happens? And unclear. What happens? The happiness is obfuscated. First line. Ishat. Ishat means little bit, tiny little bit. Ishat nairmalyah tatah tatra. Ishan nairmalyas tatas tatra. So because of the slight, Ishat means slight, little bit. Nairmalyam, nirmalasya bhavah means because of the slight flowering of Nairmalya means free of dirt, meaning a clean aspect. So because of the slight clarity, Chidamsha, the Chit is broadcast, Pratibimbanam. If the Chit is reflected, of course the Sat, as we talked about before, last week, is reflected in everything. The Chit is reflected in what? Sat is reflected in all objects.
Oh.
Yeah, Chit is reflected in which kinds of objects? Yeah, which is consciousness is reflected in which kind of objects? What makes them sentient? Ayyo Rama.
I am here.
Ayyo Devre. Yeah. What makes something sentient?
Being able to express oneself. Being able to express oneself.
Awareness is in everything.
We know the sentience because of the Sukshma Sharira.
Sukshma Sharira, thank you. The presence of the subtle body. Yes. The presence of the subtle body becomes the medium of expression of what? Chit. Even the rock. Please go back and listen to last Thursday's class, because it will help to clarify this very much. Even the rock is Satchitananda. You are also Satchitananda. Remember this example I gave? The rock cannot say I rock. You can say I rock. Why? Because of the presence of the Sukshma Sharira. And what is the Sukshma Sharira? The mind, etc. The mind, senses, etc. are the Sukshma Sharira. And do you remember Tattva Bodha we studied last year? Yeah. And what is the Sukshma Sharira made up of? Here I will take a tea break. Sukshma Sharira is composed of what kinds of things? No, that is it, all of it. All of it is crafted by what? Manaha, Buddhi, Ahankara. Yeah. What kind of 5 elements?
Well, there's 5 subtle elements.
5 subtle elements. So, the 5 subtle elements constitutes the subtle body. Correct? This is a no-brainer. It's like these children's cartoons or jokes. How do you stun a blue elephant with a blue elephant gun? Like that it is. So where did the subtle body come from? Subtle elements. Hello, wake up. So subtle body cannot come from gross elements, the subtle elements. And then if we ask another question, what part of the subtle elements constitute the mind, then the answer I will only give. The answer given in the Tattva Bodha and other introductory texts of Vedanta is what? From the Sattva portion of the subtle elements, the mind has been crafted. Do you see that now? Do you see the connection now? Yeah. So therefore, even in the most Ghora-est person and the Mudha-est person, little Sattva predominates, correct? Because the mind itself is a product of Sattva. From the Sattvikamsha of the 5 elements, the mind has been crafted so that the tiny little Sattva that predominates is enough to portray the Chit, in the sense that the person very sadly or angrily will say, yes, I am alive, but is not enough to portray the Ananda. Yeah. Understood now? Yeah. So this is what he is trying to say. Ishat Nairmalyam. Nairmalyam is, you can take it in 2 ways. One is what I just said. Because the mind is the Sattvamsha of the 5 elements. So because of that Ishat Sattva being there, even though the Vrittis are not Sattviki, the Vrittis are not at all connected with Sattva, the Vrittis are Ghora and Mudha. But since the Sattva element is there in the crafting of the mind and the Buddhi, etc., then it is enough to say, I am alive. So the Chit manifests in such people where the Ghora and the Mudha Vrittis predominates. The Chit alone manifests. The Sat is of course there in everything. The Chit manifests. The Chit is that which can say Sat is, and I am this Sat. I exist. So the Chit manifests, but the Ananda does not manifest, cannot manifest. Why? Because it is veiled over by the force and the power of these vrittis which have a way of taking over the whole mind, which have a way of wresting it from its sanity. And so here, this is very important, and this is a wonderful discussion, a very important discussion. And here, so now what to do, to understand. The verse number 9 says Ishat Nairmalyat, because of the presence of a little bit of clarity, and clarity not in terms of thinking, clarity in the form of the existence of the mind, which is crafted from the Sattvic element. And then what happens? Chidamsha Pratibimbanam, that is responsible for the consciousness to be reflected. But it is not enough for the happiness to be reflected. How to understand this? How can I just grasp my mind over this? An example is given in the next verse. Let us look. Yadyapi nirmale nire
Yadvapi nirmale nire
Vanheraušnasya sankramaha
Vanheraušnasya sankramaha Vanheraušnasya sankramaha
Na prakashasya tadvat syat
Na prakashyasya tadvat syat.
Okay, remove the marbles from the mouth. We'll try again. Na prakashasya tadvat syat
Na prakashyasya tadvat syat
Chinmatrodbhutireva cha
Chinmatrodbhutireva cha.
Yeah. Yadyapi, despite the fact, nirmale nire, even if the water is clear, in the clear water, 7th case, absolute locative construction, yadyapi nirmale nire, despite the fact that the water is clear, in this clear water, vanhehe, of the fire, aushnasya, the heat, sankramaha, the entry of the heat in the water, sankramaha, the entry. the entry of the heat in the water, even if it's clear, only the entry of the heat in the water takes place, na prakashasya, not of the light of the fire. Because fire has two aspects, correct? Light and heat. So if you put a boiling pan of water to boil, the water boils and the heat of the fire gets transferred to the water, but the water doesn't catch fire, correct? Water is incapable of catching fire. Tadvat syat. Tadvat syat means in the same manner it is, so it is. Chinmatra udbhutihi evacha. Tadvat syat. In the same manner there is the manifestation of consciousness alone, and then we have to do anuvritti. We have to carry over the ghorasu, mudhasu, vrittishu from the top verse. Okay? Because this is a poetic way of expressing. They will not write down all the things all the time. So we have to carry those two because the same context. So we have to say, na prakashasya tadvat ghora mudhasu syat. We have to bring the ghora mudhasu down here. So just like in the water, let us understand this example. In the water, of the two things, two elements, two properties of the fire. The fire has two properties, heat and light. So, out of the two properties of of fire, which are heat and light, only the heat is manifest, no matter how clear the water. The clarity of the water has nothing to do. This has gone again. Some disturbance again. Are you able to hear me? Mercury is Vakri in retrograde, that's why. Communication will be affected. Are you able to hear me now? Wonderful. One yes is enough. Yes, I got it. So, let us understand the example. Fire has two properties, heat and light. And despite the water might be clear, despite the clarity of the water, the heat alone is transferred to the water, not the light. Like that, in a mind that is predominantly full of ghora and mudha vrittis, the chit alone is manifest, not the Ananda. Yeah. And how is that? What is to do with that? We will see tomorrow at the same time. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Any questions are there in the class or online? Both. Yes, ask. You have a question too? Yeah, ask.
I had a question about something you said, Swamini, that I didn't quite understand. When you talked about when we have, I guess, a dirty thought or trauma, experience a trauma or some of those negative emotions, then you say, stop doing what you're doing, and I
Yeah, stop doing. You see, if you know the cause, sometimes you know the cause. you know exactly what the triggers are. Certain triggers are known triggers, you know. When it's a known trigger, you don't call it PTSD. You know, PTSD means when you don't have a connection to what made that, what is that trigger that made it come up, that made the anger, the sorrow, the disconnect come up, you don't know. That is what is called that post-traumatic stress, whatever it's called, disorder syndrome. So that means that the trigger is there, but it is hidden from me. Correct? Like shell shock, when people go to war and come back, and they have witnessed so many things, they have blocked it out. Because the first way, especially in children, is to block out the pain so that they can grow up. That is how the unconscious is formed. So there are many triggers one doesn't know exist. All you know is that when you are in a particular situation, some things happen. You know, you don't like doing something, or when you are doing something, suddenly something happens. So that instead of seeing it as something to be afraid of, we have to look at it as an unopened letter. As Carl Jung would say, every dream is an unopened letter. It has a message for you. But in the beginning, when one is frightened of that thought, when the thoughts come and crowd the mind and they fill one up with a sense of insecurity, you cannot look into that, correct? So first you have to disengage from whatever that association was. You have to disengage. And sometimes that association is Vedanta, unfortunately. I was okay until I started to study. What happened? Nothing happened. You know, you have to go through the Ghora and Mudha Vrittis for the Sattva to emerge. That's all that happened. And then sometimes you have to disengage. Sometimes people say, I'm taking a break. I mean, I hope that doesn't happen. But if it has to happen, that's better. To take a break and then come back. When one is able to look at it from the eagle's eye, from a perspective, you know. So that's what I mean. Yeah. Next question. Yeah.
And if we do, I was having some other question, and if we do see and we do know why trigger,
Yeah.
and maybe we're a little bit ready to look at, what would be the step then to take?
That would be to just love up the fear and, you know, do everything, starting with therapy, you know, anything. Therapy is an important sadhana. Yeah. Psychotherapy is an important sadhana. It helps one get to the place. And do everything that is needed to get to be in that calm place, to be able to enjoy yourself. Then, I'll come to you. I'm reading one question online. When Sattva Guna dominates and attains its calm nature, does one have Kartritva Bhava or doership? No. Because in Sattva Guna, you know, everything is given. Bhagavan is the giver. And you are happy with that, yes. And role is you, you are not the role. How to separate? You know, role is you, because there is no other person who is being the mother, father, sister, brother. You are it. But the sister is you, you are not the sister. Correct? Yeah. Daughter is you, you are not the daughter. And in order to separate that clearly, what you have to do is know that you have an identity. And your identity is not that of a daughter, mother, father, sister, brother, employee, worker. Your identity is a devotee of Bhagavan. You are connected to Bhagavan. That is your primary and only identity. The others are all just come and go. You enjoy the others. And if you don't have an identity, if you are not connected with this identity as the devotee, what will happen is you will end up giving away your remote and other people will be in charge of your happiness. That was a fantastic example. Yeah. One more question. Let's see. The text is a must for not only those who want Vedanta, but to all others. It should be in the curriculum of life, PhD. Yeah. That is Leela Krishnamurthy writing from DC. Okay, yes, Laurie.
Yeah. I love that metaphor of the remote. I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But would you say that, like this idea of exchanging remotes in any relationship?
Yes, even in a friendship.
Yeah, that
Yes.
we do that
Yes.
because of our own insecurities of wanting to control the other person so we can feel safe? Or
It's
is it
not about
something
control.
else?
It's always thinking, looking to the joy outside.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't have anything to do with like I'm insecure so I want to control my husband?
No.
It's
It's
not
usually because, that may well be. But usually one exchanges the remote partly because I think I have to make this person happy, and if I make this person happy, that person will make me happy.
Yeah, I think
So
that's
it's like codependently forever, you know?
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
what happens.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
And later on the insecurity increases, and then, you know, even if they ask for the remote, you will not give. No, you can't have it back. You know? And you put it in lock and key because then the insecurity makes you feel controlling. Your question is unanswered? What was that? Oh yeah, I forgot. I didn't forget. I didn't even read it. Is Sthula Sharira perceived by Sukshma Sharira? Or is Sukshma Sharira perceived by Sthula Sharira? You know what? Sthula means gross. What can the gross do? It cannot do anything. You know, that's why it's called gross. Yeah, it is jada, correct? So perception is an action, is it not? Yeah. So perception is a conscious action, and so for the conscious action you need Sukshma Sharira. So the Sukshma Sharira perceives itself, and it also perceives the Sthula Sharira, not the other way around. Okay? Yeah. Any other questions? Going. See?
Is it possible to have them both at the same time, the Gura and the Mudha?
Yeah, yes. And that is a very good question. Amber is asking here, is it possible to have Ghora and Mudha Vritti enjoy, quote unquote, the Ghora and the Mudha Vritti at the same time? Yes. That's when you feel like looking for, on the GPS, where the nearest hospital is. You know? What kind of hospital, I'm not going to say. So, yes. Or in India, as they say, you know, which is the closest road leading to Agra. You know, there are certain places, you know. So yeah, it is possible. Because when it is possible to feel despondent and angry at the same time, because despondency is generally associated with Mudha, anger with Ghora. So that's why I told you these are archetypes. Yeah. So it is possible. So when Rajas and Tamas predominate, so it's just a question of how much, half cup of Rajas, 1/4 Tamas, 1 cup of Tamas, 1/4 Rajas, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's all mixed up. Good question. I'm sure many people had that question. Let's see if there's anything else online. Yeah, that was fun. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it too. As one starts watching the faults in oneself, one becomes good at finding tiny faults in others. Sad face, you know that sad face? Yeah. So this is from our Shobha. And to this I will say, actually, I think the experience of people is generally the other way around. As one starts to find fault in others, one becomes more clear that actually they are all within myself. So, yes, you can find fault in others, but don't be affected by them, that's all. Then that sad face will become smiling face. Yeah.
Corners up.
Yeah, the corners will become up now. Yeah, see there, now she gave the smiley face. You had a question also?
Oh no, I was just
that
happy
was
because of
instant.
that.
That was instant. See how instantly you can be transformed.
Yeah.
Thank you for demonstrating how quickly you can be transformed. People here are happy. Alright, so we'll see more tomorrow, tonight, Shvetashvatara Upanishad at 6 o'clock. Oh, all the best.